Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Queen Elizabeth, A Day in Her Life. In our last episode, Princess Alexandra got upset when her husband decided to go to India without her. She never really got over it. She brought it up when her son returned from India 30 years later. So she really did hold on to that one. Let's see what's going on today. While the Prince of Wales was gone, the princess consoled herself by having her parents stay with her. That caused some friction with Queen Victoria, who refused to invite either the princess or her father and mother to the christening of the Duke of Edinburgh's child, on the grounds that their presence would make too much of a crowd. Certainly an odd way of looking at it in Windsor Castle, Ponsonby commented. Later, Queen Victoria insisted the princess should visit at Osborne, leaving King Christian and Queen Louise back in London. This action made it clear that she had no wish to entertain the Denmarks. Of course, the Princess of Wales sees this, and Ponsonby wrote, and we'll talk about it, and if it gets about that the Queen is unkind to her when she is so very popular, there will be a row. The Queen's disapproval of the Denmarks' English visit was nothing compared to her disapproval of the princess's plan to return with them to Denmark and to spend the winter at her old home. Of all the many rows over Danish visits, this one of 1875 was the biggest and the best. Even Disraeli was dragged into the quarrel, writing to the prince that his stay at Windsor had been a painful time because of the unfortunate subject of the Danish visit. The Queen reluctantly agreed that the princess should take the children with her, returning, however, in time for the state opening of the Parliament in February. On this occasion, the Queen planned to open Parliament in person, and in the absence of her son, she considered it essential that his wife should accompany her. The princess was angry that her time at home was to be cut short, and she included the unfortunate Disraeli in her anger. He had taken the opinion of the Lord Chancellor, Lord Derby, and Lord Salisbury, and when all these notabilities agreed with the Queen's view, he had no option but to insist that the princess should return. I have the painful duty to communicate this option to Her Royal Highness, he wrote to the prince. I fear very much that she will misunderstand my motives and my conduct. Queen Victoria wrote to her son on the subject, and she was replying to a letter where he took up for his wife and argued that her return was unnecessary. As regards dear Alex's return, I have written always in the same strain, and now the whole is over, but I cannot be silent upon the one point of which, I must say, pains and hurts me, which is yours and dear Alex's treating my reasons for her wishing to return as an act of unkindness on my part, and this applies generally to the so often repeated long visits abroad. It is the very reverse. If I did not love you both as I do, or if I did not feel that what I thought and knew to be right on the public grounds, I would never insist upon what unfortunately dear Alex never does view in the right light. Dear Papa said to me once, when he refused something which I wished very much, the refusal of which annoyed me, but the justice of which I fully admitted afterwards and told him so. I love you far too much to let you do what you would do you harm, and so it is on this occasion with dear Alex. Her not returning and being with me on this occasion, when you are abroad, would have been misunderstood and have done her harm. Your father-in-law quite understood this, but not so the Queen, and I felt it my duty to write an answer to her letter, fully to explain what the real duties are and how little people here are accustomed to seeing the prince and princesses belonging to England by marriage absenting themselves so often and for so long. So the princess returned to take the traditional seat of the royal princesses at the opening of the Parliament. The disagreements were forgotten because of a new scandal. There always seems to be a scandal popping up. The prince had persuaded his friend, Lord Aylesford, to accompany him to India. Now, on February 20th, 1876, Aylesford received a letter from his wife announcing somewhat prematurely her intention of eloping with another of the prince's friends, Lord Blandford himself, a married man. The prince was deeply involved because a few years ago he had a flirtation with Lady Aylesford, which was probably an innocent one, but he had written her some very imprudent letters. Lord Blandford's brother, Lord Randolph Churchill, persuaded the lovers not to elope. Lord Aylesford, however, refused to reconsider his decision to seek a divorce, a decision in which he had the support of the Prince of Wales. Disappointed in her hope that her old admirer might intervene in her favor, Lady Aylesford gave her packet of incriminating letters to Lord Randolph, asking him to use them as a weapon to force the prince to influence and to persuade Lord Aylesford not to take divorce proceedings. As the prince was in India, Lord Randolph could not confront him face to face. Instead, he sought to involve the princess in the affair. She had, of course, already heard of Lady Aylesford's conduct, and so had Queen Victoria, who had written several times to her son mentioning the subject, but neither of them knew that the prince's own reputation was threatened by the scandal. Lord Randolph now enlisted the help of Lord Arlington, a kindly individual whose pity for Lady Aylesford the two men called one afternoon at Marlborough House, sending up a message to ask if the Princess of Wales would receive them for a few minutes. Well, the princess made the mistake that the deaf knew all too well, mishearing the name as Lady Aylesbury. She at once agreed to see the waiting caller. So she was very naturally upset when Lady Aylesford entered with Lord Randolph, explained their errand. He told her of the existence of the packet of letters and assured her that if they were published, her husband would never sit upon the throne of England. It was for her, therefore, to persuade the prince, who would certainly be subpoenaed in any divorce action, to do his best to prevent Lord Aylesford from bringing up any proceedings. After making his position brutally clear, Lord Randolph and his friends departed, leaving the princess in deep distress. Princess Alexandra felt the need to see someone older, more experienced than herself, so she sent for Sir William Knollys, and in the middle of pouring out the whole story to him, by some mischance the Duchess of Teck was announced. The princess would not refuse to see her cousin, but even though they were close, she would not tell her the whole truth. She had to give a reason for her agitation. She thought quickly and told a tale of woe, which was wholly true, yet not the whole truth. She explained the way her deafness had misled her into receiving Lady Aylesford, and her fear of what gossip might say if once it got abroad that she had received a woman of such doubtful reputation. So what was the wisest thing to do? The Duchess's answer was prompt and to the point. Order your carriage at once. Go straight to the Queen and tell her exactly what has happened. She will understand and entirely excuse you from any indiscretion. It will be in the court circular that you were with the Queen today, and any comment will be silenced. Knollys said that this was excellent advice. So the princess took the advice, and the Queen at once absolved the prince of anything worse than gross indiscretion. Her anger was entirely directed against those who had sought to involve his wife in this nasty business. Writing for the Queen, Lady Ellie informed Disraeli that the Queen felt so sorry for the Princess of Wales's name should be mixed up in all this, she being so young. But the princess was in fact 31 and not inexperienced in the wicked ways of the world. The Queen wrote to the prince that her dear name should never have been mixed up with such people. Meanwhile, the prince wrote a very dear letter to his wife, begging her on his return to meet him first and alone. May 11th, she went out by herself to board the Sapphiress off the Needles while the rest of the family waited at Portsmouth. That evening, after an official drive through London to Marlborough House, husband and wife appeared together in their box at the Covent Garden with their two young sons, Prince Eddie and Prince George. Queen Victoria disapproved of this plan, thinking that they should have remained quietly at home on their first evening together. The prince and princess judged otherwise, although the world at large knew little or nothing about the Aylesford scandal. London drawing rooms were humming with gossip, and it was to London society that they must show themselves as a happy and united couple. The loud applause which greeted them as they stepped to the front of the box at the beginning and end of every act warmed the princess's heart and proved to her that on this occasion at least she and her husband had acted with excellent judgment. The Aylesford affair ended without doing much harm to anyone except the principals involved in this sordid drama. Lord Aylesford forbore to divorce his wife, separating from her privately, Lady Blandford behaving likewise toward her husband. Lord Arlington, who much regretted the part he had played, wrote offering a humble apology to the Princess of Wales for his fearful mistake and received full forgiveness. Within 18 months, his name appeared among the guests invited to a Sandringham house party. Lord Randolph Churchill didn't have the same luck. He apologized to the princess, but he refused to apologize to her husband. If I have been guilty of the slightest disrespect to the HRH, the Princess of Wales, by approaching her on so painful a subject, I most unreservedly offer HRH the Princess my most humble and sincere apologies, he wrote to Lord Hardwicke, adding the unequivocal phrase, "This is the only apology which circumstances warrant my offering." Ultimately, Lord Randolph was introduced to sign a formal apology, but nevertheless, for many years, the prince refused either to see or to speak to him. I will end the video here. The Princess of Wales had her hands full in this episode. First, she had to give in to Queen Victoria and return back to England sooner than she wanted to. But when Queen Victoria beckons, you have to listen. And then the princess got involved in a scandal that her husband had been in the middle of. And her cousin gave her good advice, and the Queen Victoria took action against those who went against her son and her daughter-in-law. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you haven't subscribed, if you could do so, it would help the channel to grow, as well as giving it a thumbs up. It's all a great help. And if you haven't clicked on the notification bell, if you could do that, it lets you know when a video is posted. More importantly, I want to wish everyone a good day, and tune in again soon for another episode of Queen Elizabeth, A Day in Her Life. Thank you. Bye.